Did SQ say what I think she said? She's only 1 year old? The future's wild. The future's wild. I mean, that could be interpreted in a lot of ways. It seemed like Yuri was going with the idea of her being sheltered or something like that. I'm assuming it's kind of like an expel from paradise situation where somebody can be placed inside of a body that has been sort of, developing inside of some sort of, I don't know, tube or something like that. Maybe something like that. She does seem very kind of oblivious, aloof in her own mind, very kind of childish. So I don't doubt that it can be a possibility of 1 year. It could be that they put them through some sort of like learning system or something like that to advance them a lot quicker. I don't know. But at the same time, it's like the foot's coming up. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm clipping that. People are going to eat that up on X. And then it's like 1 year. Wait, what? Wait, what are we talking about? But no, episode 4 of Gnosia. What an episode. We have so much to talk about. I don't even know where to begin. I just literally don't know where to begin. It's like we have the whole situation with the key. I think that's sort of a vehicle. I think in the end, like there's this element of like feeling that all my theories are going out the window, like about the ship and everything like that, and the Gnosia not being sort of like a deeper plot line. But it's like, no, I think that's still all there. I think this is sort of a way of getting Yuri to get his focus off of the really important story here. Because in the end, I think this key is just going to be a vehicle for the deeper plot line. This thing is here in order to allow him to unravel what's actually going on and sort of creating a time limit. The idea that thing fills up all the way to the top and then it goes to another dimension, it sort of implies the idea that he will go with it, ? But this is a vehicle that will allow him to keep doing these loops until eventually he finds out about the ship and everything. Because yes, we open up the episode with Yuriko, and that kind of expanded that whole idea of possibility of the ship itself having some sort of desire, and the shrine maidens of these ships sort of fulfill that desire, and it's looking at this ship now. But yes, there's a lot to get through, so let's just start off with the episode again, opening up with him meeting Yuriko. And yeah, Setsu mentioned the fact that she is some sort of shrine maiden. Later on, Yuri goes into actually investigating this ship, and apparently it has been drifting for a long time with everybody on the ship itself sort of praying. Again, it kind of turns this into some sort of cult, and the ship itself is like some sort of deity. That's what I kind of get a sense from. Again, because it feels like that when they go into this first meeting. You have Yuriko sort of take this position up on this throne, watching all the minions below, wanting them to sort of, act out a stage play. Oh, you're the one that's heading the stage play? Well, dance for me. Like, she's literally sitting up there saying, dance for me. And she's commanding everybody, too. I mean, what we get from that first decision is literally her pointing out, oh, let's go with Shigemichi. And everybody chooses to go with that. Like, they all see what she's saying. She sounds very persuasive. She's very confident in what she says, and so everybody just goes with it. And yeah, I think Yuri kind of picked up on that. This is a dangerous person. The moment she said something, they went with it. Now, granted, she's wrong, but again, this is the first time it was one choice. I think there is sort of a semblance here of how people sort of allow somebody to take control of a situation. If they don't know what to do, if they're confused, they don't know, they're kind of scared. There's a Gnosia here. We don't know who they are. I don't even know. They apparently are really good at lying. How could I even figure out who is going to be the Gnosia? And then she steps up and she says, let's go with you. Because, yeah, you did this. Lays out all these points. The person can't refute it. They kind of panic. Like they said before, don't fight back. Don't argue. They're going to argue because it's these points that are very damning. She takes it. Like, she absolutely takes control. But again, the deeper thing here that I'm very curious with Yuriko as we go further on is, yes, that element of being the shrine maiden, all this kind of stuff. There was one brief scene after this whole situation where Yuri does sit down with, or not sit down, goes into another location with Yuriko, and she sort of plays out that there's something else that lies within him that he's not aware of. She says the stars are watching you. He asks if she knows something about him. He wants to kind of divulge to her, but unfortunately feels that if he does, then if she's a Gnosia, she can use that to manipulate him. But all she says is that it's laughable. It seems you know nothing at all. You'll be forced to come to terms with it with your own distortion. Again, this is where I'm feeling that this whole thing with the key is sort of, again, just a vehicle. It's a subplot. This is the thing that drives it. It's the time limit. Over here, I think this is the deeper plot line that these ships are messing with people. And again, they talked about how Yuriko, when she was on that other ship that she was a shrine maiden of, it kind of implies the idea that they were drifting and praying. I have no doubts that ship was another experiment. She's done this before. She's been on another ship that did the same exact thing, and she survived in the end, and now she's on this ship, and now she's talking to Yuri like, you don't know what you're going through, do you? You'll figure out eventually. I mean, when they first met each other, she said something like, this must be their will too. Again, the ship. The will of the ship itself. And then when Setsu spoke up and started talking to him, she's like, yeah, hey, is this some sort of sabotage? Like, you're sabotaging what the ship desires. And she could possibly know that Yuri has one of these looping capabilities, one of these life forms, these keys, and maybe she's playing into it. She knows her destination. She knows what's going on. She's been through it before. And now she sees somebody with some sort of tool that is experimenting within this whole experiment that's happening that she's been through before. I think that's what it's implying. She knows something. Her reaching her hand out to Yuri, I think it's sort of getting a sense of that. Maybe she can tell there's one of these life forms inside of him. It's like, you know nothing. That's laughable. You'll figure it out eventually. Very interesting. Again, I think this is all sort of little subplots within this whole thing. I think we got the Gnosia, we got the key, we got the Shrine Maiden and the ship itself, the experiments the ship itself is doing. All these are subplots. And then mixed within it is all these characters with these interesting stories. Again, like we found out with this episode, SQ. I eat it up. I love this stuff. But yes, speaking of SQ, I did skip that part. Yuri goes into his room. SQ's in there painting her nails, and he's asking about Yuriko. She doesn't know anything about it. Yeah, I haven't been really around for very long. Only been around for 1 year. What? Just what? Like the most thirsty character in this entire series so far, and she just like blurts out, only been around for a year. And again, Yuri says something to the effect of, oh, you really did grow up sheltered or something. And she says, oh, yeah, that's more true than you know. Look at my flawless skin. Again, I think what it's implying there, what it's getting at, because I think both are true. I think the idea is that her body itself was sheltered. Again, probably test tube built, born inside this test tube, and eventually the body itself grows. And then her memories or just the brain itself is suddenly then activated when she is older. That's why I think it's going. The body itself matured, but the mind itself was born a year ago. I don't know. These people have like oddities about them. They're all supposed to be human, but they're all different in some way or odd in some way. I mean, for example, Shigemichi. Shigemichi is human. He just has artificial skin that he has made look like, again, a generic sci-fi character. Ratio apparently has no gender and is a bird-looking person. I don't know. It's super weird. It's super weird. And I've seen some of the character designs of some of the other characters. I mean, you see him in the ED. Like a dolphin-looking dude. We'll see. And the cat at the end of this episode might actually be a person. They said 8 people, though. So may not. I don't know. But yeah, they go to warp, and yes, Ratio is the Gnosia, ends up killing Yuri. So our first time, I think, that we've had Yuri die during the warp. I think? Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But here's where things get super interesting. Super interesting. The moment that Yuri wakes up and pretty much mentions to Setsu the fact that the loop, they died during the warp. And Setsu brings up the fact that, oh yeah, you're doing the loop thing too. Just comes out with it. They do mention later on, they do admit later on that it seems to imply that Setsu's always had this device, this key. Or at least implies that all of them have, because they say, you wonder why I never tell you that I've been looping whenever you see me. It's because I'm afraid that you might be a Gnosia. Implying the idea that Setsu always has the ability to loop, just that she doesn't want to reveal it to Yuri because Yuri might be a Gnosia. Interesting, but this does get my theory that I had before, where there could be a loop where Setsu will be a Gnosia. And having this looping capability, or at least a Gnosia having the ability to loop. But I was very surprised to see how, I guess, level-headed the Gnosia itself is. Now, I was kind of hoping there would be another Gnosia, because we do still have this one killing people and doing what the Gnosia does with every single one of these loops. It does seem like this thing is still a killer. It is still fulfilling this role that it is doing, which makes sense at the very end when the Gnosia tells Yuri, do your best, do your all. We have to do this. This is our role as, keepers of this key. It seems like this Gnosia is taking its responsibility to fulfill what this key wants very seriously, which you would think that it probably wouldn't. But it makes sense when you think about what happened to Yuri the last loop. He thought everything was successful, he still looped. And it made him feel like, what's the point of all this stuff? This thing probably went through the same thing. I successfully took them all out. I got it. Wait, I'm back to the beginning again. Okay, I'll get him again. Oh, wait, I'm back to the beginning again. This Gnosia said at some point, I've been through hundreds of loops. It probably at some point during those loops realized, I can't get out of this. I might as well fulfill what this thing wants. It wants information. Let me give it information. But yeah, it's very interesting. But anyways, yes, She reveals all this to Yuri, the fact that this thing is essentially consuming information. It wants that information. It desires to know about humans, their personalities, and everything, and eats up that information. And Yuri tries this out, goes and learns about how Gina wants to cook this favorite food of hers and really enjoys it. Dangos really enjoys it, and that's enough for him to get a little drop. And then it goes into having somebody else reveal something, and it doesn't give a drop. Oh, you already knew that, Stella liked flowers, which I thought the same thing, dude. You already knew this. Why would you think? Why are you looking at the meter? We all know about this. It doesn't give him information. But yeah, this is all to get information to satiate this thing and its desires. But the interesting thing about all this, after learning about all this information, it's storing all this knowledge, and once it gets everything it desires, the key will leave its host and head to another dimension. Yuri says, another dimension? The Gnosia says that's the important part and solution to the problem you're currently facing, ? Now, at first, I thought, wait, so does that mean that it's actually going to take Yuri with it to some other dimension? What other dimension? Another dimension makes me believe that it's something outside of these time loops. These timelines are going through every time they loop. Another dimension would be like another location rather than another timeline. There's time and space. We're talking about two different things here. What is this other dimension, and why would Yuri want to go there? Could it be possibly just death itself? Some people believe that the idea of death is to go to another dimension. Maybe the thing itself dies once it's gathered enough information. But the question mark again here is, why is that the key for the problem, or the solution for the problem that you're facing? Now, that could be simply the idea that you no longer loop, you're no longer stuck here. But why would he be confused about that and the Gnosia not really explain it? Don't think about it too much right now. Why not just say you get out of the loops? That's the solution. You get out of the loops. Again, it makes me think there's something else here. There's something else that it's applying here. She says the most important thing right now is to focus on what you're doing, go to the meetings, do your role properly because you need to survive as long as possible. If you fail to do this whole process, you die and you restart. The longer you stay in the loop, the more close you get to people, the more they open up to you, the more knowledge it gets. It makes perfect sense. If he just keeps going to the meeting room right off the bat and saying, hey, tell me about yourself, they're going to say no, and then you die. You got to get in there and do this whole process. Survive as long as possible, even if you know that you're going to eventually loop. It gives Yuri purpose. I do like this because, it is following him thinking he got out, and then he's stuck back to the beginning again. But yeah, the ending was great. I love that ending. The warp's coming. Hey, let's work together to find the Gnosia and eliminate it. And they're like, no, thank you. I'm going back in my room. Oh, by the way, you know why I never tell you? And again, implying the fact that Setsu always has the looping capability, she just doesn't want to talk to him. I never tell you because I never know if you're a Gnosia. But I know you're not a Gnosia because I'm the Gnosia. Oh, man. The eyes. I was like, that was pretty good. I actually had a feeling somewhere early in this that this could be a Gnosia. I really did actually call this early on. I had a feeling, I'm like, why is she being so clear about it again? Again, whenever there's an oddity here, I always feel like that's going to be the Gnosia. When it's going above and beyond what it normally does, the assumption there is that it's going to be Gnosia. But I think it was really just how she was acting. It felt so off. It felt weird. One particular sign that I felt kind of jumped out at me was when they went to the whole thing where they were going through the hologram, and Yuri picked an area that was wide and open. And Setsu said that they feel sort of isolated, lonely. Let's go somewhere else. And they go into a very packed area. Now, the assumption there is that it's Setsu, and Setsu is just from a big city, and so they're used to it. That's what they're comfortable with. But she says specifically lively. I feel like the Gno, and potentially the Gnosia in effect, love to be around humans. They love being around a lot of people. The other thing that can be answering this is that simply, yes, they desire to be around people because they're trying to finish these loopings, and if they're not around people, they can't gather information, so they always desire to be with people. Either way, there's a couple little telling signs where I'm like, this is probably going to be the Gnosia. It's probably going to be the Gnosia. It was an interesting little section. Again, I think this is going to be a vehicle, not necessarily the answer. But otherwise, this will be boring, because we're already at this point 4 episodes in. I wouldn't want to sit through 12 episodes of him just trying to meet more people and learn about them and then dying and then starting over and learning more about them. Now, the stories of each individual could be interesting, but again, I think the deeper plot line is going to be the ship. I think that's going to be the deeper plot line. And again, whoever gave Setsu the key, and in effect, Yuri. Which does bring another question mark that I had. They point out specifically how Yuri's thing does not have much in it. But yet the Setsu that gave him this key seemed like they knew a lot about this whole situation, which makes me believe that they looped a lot of times, but yet this thing that Yuri has doesn't have much in it. Now, that could be explained in a couple different ways. One, that Setsu could have gave him a second one, and that one had no information in it, and thus Yuri starting from scratch. The other thing that could explain is that Setsu just learned a lot very quickly and then handed off to Yuri. The third explanation, which I think could actually be a lot more sound, is that Setsu just struggled immensely to connect to people. It needs information about people, and who seems like the most antisocial? I mean, there's a lot of them that feel antisocial. Ratio, for sure, damn sure. But Ratio has a lot of knowledge and could feel that up very quickly. But no, Setsu is just very cold and standoffish, and thus she could have a lot of struggles just connecting with people and getting information out of people. So that could explain why Yuri's getting one that's very started out. This other one that's the Gnosia is filling up really quickly because the Gnosia itself is working hard outside of Setsu's personality. Anyways, I thought that was kind of an interesting thing that Yuri started so empty despite getting it from somebody else that seemed very knowledgeable. Anyways, where was I at? Jeez. Oh yeah, the warp happens and SQ's dead. I was actually shocked by this because I actually thought when I seen Stella at the very end over here in the conversation that they were trying to play it out that Stella overheard it and then it might turn into some conflict. I almost thought that Stella might actually be another Gnosia and that Gnosia might not have liked that Setsu said that and they could fight against each other. But no, that meeting, Yuri totally turned on poor Stella, even though she was trying to help Yuri. I felt bad, dude. I felt so bad. I'm like, no way did he do that. He actually froze her. Now, it's a freeze and not a kill, which it could technically lead to death, but still, I was like, that's wrong, dude. That is so wrong. But no, they go to the meeting itself, and they find out that SQ is dead. I did kind of want to hope that Setsu wasn't going to kill anybody during the warp, but again, they've done it 100 times. This is a loop. They're going to play their role every single time. Kill one person, go to the next meeting. But during the meeting, there was some interesting things that was mentioning here. Yuriko specifically pointing out, you guys know this is going to happen. Life was going to be taken. We didn't find the Gnosia. What are you fussing about? But they kind of get into a little bit about either Gnosia or religion itself, and the idea that every single time one is attacked, that's what Gnosia do. It's not that they actually are eliminated or that they're killed. It's that they're simply transferred somewhere else. Their soul itself is simply transferred somewhere else. Which, yes, implies the idea of religion, the idea that the soul goes to heaven or something like that, or to the afterlife or something like that. But it could imply the idea that Gnosia themselves are relocating the spirits of people. When they infiltrate somebody, when they infect somebody, it's displacing the human itself to somewhere else. Question mark. I don't know, I would assume that it's probably more so that Yuriko, as a shrine maiden with these ships, they possibly believe there's some sort of belief that when you die, your spirit goes to somewhere else. But it kind of adds to Gina's character and the idea that she isn't like this. I'd rather die instead of being affected by a Gnosia. And yeah, adding that to her statement that she's made before, where about the idea there's something out there in the universe that is trying to change us who we are, it leads me to believe that either she has a belief that is very strongly against the idea of self-modification or distortion of yourself that's really kind of pushing against that. Maybe later on, they can get more kind of deep diving in that kind of stuff. But additionally, during the meeting, yes, they revealed there's one engineer, which I assumed at this point it was going to be Setsu. And that would be the reason why she knew that Yuri wasn't the Gnosia. Because I would assume that if there's another Gnosia, they may possibly know just by seeing them, oh yeah, you're another Gnosia, let's work together. But I kind of thought there was going to be another Gnosia. But no, I love the fact that Setsu ends up baiting Yuri into revealing that they're a Gnosia. I was like, what? I thought for a minute it would be one of those things where they're just trying to bait Yuri, thus he takes command of the situation and thus gets suspicion upon himself. I thought they were playing that whole thing, because he essentially did that to Ratio at some point when they were Gnosia. But no, I love it because at some point Yuriko is like, oh, that puts suspicion on Yuri then. I guess Yuri's the one. And then Setsu legit looks at them with like the biggest stink eye. Like, no, I just asked him a question. I'm like, okay, now they're defending them. Like, wait, does the Gnosia really like Yuri? Are we going to get something later on where the Gnosia actually liked Yuri? Or I guess it could be a deeper plotline, the idea that Yuri has always been a Gnosia. I mean, that's a possibility, that Yuri has always been Gnosia. The only thing that works against that is that it doesn't really ever feel like Yuri himself is, like, able to move during the warps. That's the only thing that works against it. Unless they have to have, some sort of self-awareness and use some sort of ability to move around. It kind of felt that way when we had that brief moment where Ratio was moving around during the warp. It almost felt like time was paused and they had to activate something, question mark. But no, he ends up telling a lie and freezing Stella. That feels so bad. That feels so bad. I was shocked. I really was. But I almost felt like it was a thing where he almost wanted to learn more about Setsu at the time. Learn more about the Gnosia. Utilize this time to its fullest. If you can learn more from this Gnosia, do it. If it seems like they trust you, don't waste this loop. Get more information out of him. It's interesting. But yeah, they go to the open plains. The Gnosia asks why he didn't rat them out. He said, well, why'd you defend me? Kind of feels like, again, them sort of sussing each other out. I wanted to see what you would do if I told you I was Gnosia. And you did exactly what I expected. You're calm, lonely, yet, yeah, I wish you wouldn't do things that put you to a disadvantage. He's like, you shouldn't tell people that you're Gnosia. It was an interesting little scene. I really did feel like this sort of humanized the Gnosia. Now, of course, the question mark is that when a Gno infests a human and they turn to Gnosia, it does imply the idea that the human is still in there. Their mind and memory are still there. It's just the personality comes forward. But the question mark is that when a Gno infests a human, do they create a new self? Or does the Gno, part of the Gno, go inside the human and thus take over their personality? Is it a birth or is it just a transfer? With them making multiple Gnosia, I would assume it's birthing a new person, a new being. But either way, it, again, humanizes the idea of the Gnosia. That this person in front of Yuri is not Setsu, but it's a person. And they do have thoughts and desires. And this one specifically has been looping 100 times and just wants to learn more and fulfill what this key wants. I still, of course, believe the Gnosia are bad because they're killing people. They're killing people, especially during the loops. I mean, people are being frozen, but they're actively killing people. But again, it does at least open the door to the idea that the Gnosia aren't like horrible. And again, with the statement made before about them transferring the souls, it could open the door eventually to this idea that Gnosia themselves believe they're trying to make humans to their best form. They're trying to infest people to make them stronger, to make them more able to survive and not have to have food or something like that. And their souls are being kind of put away and safe, possibly. But I do like that Yuri kind of went with this because, again, even though I feel bad for Stella, even though she did just get frozen, at least it kind of opened the door to some sort of connection with the Gnosia, which I thought would be interesting. Now, I will admit, at the end of this conversation, I feel like it's trying to play out Yuri to not really care about his own survival much anymore, which I guess, yes, based on the fact that he's died like, 4 times now, eventually you get desensitized to it. But there's like an element of here of like, hey, what I want you to do during the warp, kill me. Like, how could you so like nonchalant say that? Like, so easily say, murder me in my sleep. That's okay. I feel bad for Stella. It felt like he so openly accepted that, and it felt a little off. Like, I still think that he would still seek surviving. Like, why would he be so okay with that? Now, there is a side of me that also believes I don't want to fight against this Gnosia that I've got a connection with, but they could easily just wait till the end and allow the system to reset him. Like, the two of them survive to the end and then reset. It felt off that he asked to be killed. I don't think that anybody would allow themselves to be killed like that. It just sounds so horrible. But yeah, it ends with him dead, and Setsu being the Gnosia, obviously. No other Gnosias. And additionally, Yuriko being the engineer. I guess she didn't pick out Setsu. Because again, you can select one person to check to see if they're human or not 100%. And she could have looked at somebody else and not Setsu. But makes sense. Again, I could see her being very calculative and not telling anybody. But yes, it resets, and then we open up with 8 survivors this time. And immediately he says that he understands to Setsu, which that was interesting. He hasn't ever said that before. And I think that is because he has a new desire, a purpose given to him by the Gnosia. Like, yeah, I'm going to fulfill this. I'm going to do it properly this time. Let's go. But yeah, we meet 2 new individuals, which I believe is called Comet and Chippy. Chippy? Could be Chippy. Chippy or something like that. Dude's got a cat, and the chick's got some massive underboob, and I love it. I love me some oob. But yeah, that's how they wrap up the episode. Insane stuff, long recording, had a lot to yap about. Hopefully I got everything out that I wanted to get out, but I hope you guys enjoy this yap fest, this analysis of Gnosia. Really loving this stuff, still eating this stuff up. Cannot wait for more, but I hope you guys enjoy the video. As always, if you did, hit the like button down below. If you like this content and want to support the channel more, become a member of the channel. Until next time, take care.